Okay, I had to do that because this is the first birthday of Book Nerd Paradise. So welcome to episode 52 of Book Nerd Paradise, where we get to know an author as they tell us one of their favorite quotes, read from their work, pose a trivia question, and give away a book or two. Hi, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. This episode, as I said, marks the 1-year anniversary of Book Nerd Paradise. And I want to thank each of you for your support of all the amazing authors I've had the opportunity to get to know over this last year. Thanks for tuning in and sharing your comments, for it's only with all of your support that this show is becoming what it is. It's a hub of young adult science fiction fantasy readers and authors coming together. For our anniversary episode, we have a very special guest, YA fantasy author, Michelle Madow. Michelle writes fast-paced young adult fiction that will leave you turning the pages and wanting more, she says. She's always loved writing stories, but the possibility of being an author used to feel more like a dream than a reality, she said. She didn't share her stories with anyone until her junior year of college, when she signed up for an Intro to Creative Writing course. Her teacher and classmates read the first chapter of a book idea she had, and they loved it so much they told her she had to finish the book so they could find out what happened next. By the end of the school year, Michelle finished that book, which would later be published as her first novel. Michelle grew up in Baltimore and now lives in Boca Raton, Florida, where she writes books for young adults. Some of her favorite things are reading, pizza, traveling, shopping, time travel, Broadway musicals, and spending time with friends and family. Michelle has toured across America to promote her books and to encourage high school students to embrace reading and writing. Someday, she hopes to travel the world for a year on a cruise ship. That sounds like fun.
Yes.
Please join me in welcoming Michelle Madow.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. I'm so happy to be here today to talk about what I love most, books, of course. And happy birthday to your channel. I don't have any I don't have any blow things like you do, but
well, thank you so much. Yes, this is quite a festive occasion, I have to say. So, Michelle, you'll be reading from your YA fantasy novel, Elementals 1, The Prophecy of Shadows. So that we can get a feel for the book, would you give us a brief synopsis?
Elementals is the first in a new series that fans of mythology or books like Percy Jackson will love. It's full of action and adventure. And from the back cover, here's the description of it. Here's what it looks like. When Nicole Cassidy moves from sunny Georgia to gloomy New England, the last thing she expects is to learn that her homeroom is a cover for a secret coven of witches. Even more surprisingly, she's apparently a witch herself. Despite doubts about her newfound abilities, Nicole is welcomed into this ancient circle of witches and is bedazzled by their powers, and to her dismay by Blake, the school's notorious bad boy. Girls who get close to Blake wind up hurt. His girlfriend Danielle will do anything to keep them away, even if she has to resort using dark magic. But the chemistry between Blake and Nicole is undeniable. And despite wanting to protect Nicole from Danielle's wrath, he finds it impossible to keep his distance. But when the Olympian comet shoots through the sky for the first time in 3,000 years, Nicole, Blake, Danielle, and 2 others in their homeroom are gifted with mysterious elemental powers. But the comet has another effect. It opens a portal to the prison world that has contained the Titans for centuries. After an ancient monster escapes and attacks Nicole and Blake, it's up to them and the others to follow the clues from a cryptic prophecy so that they can save their town and possibly the world. So that's Elementals, and it's the first of a 4-part series. I'll be releasing all 4 books this year, which is so exciting. And I love this book. It was so fun for me to write. So I hope that if you pick it up, that you enjoy reading it.
You also selected one of your favorite quotes. If you would, tell us what that is and then tell us why it's a favorite.
So the quote that I picked is by George R.R. Martin, who wrote the Game of Thrones series. And the quote says that a reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies, and a man who doesn't read lives only one. And I love this quote just because I feel like it just explains so much about why I love to read and why I love being around other people who love to read also, because you are just opened up to so many more people, so many more realities, so many more possibilities and ways of thinking as a reader than you would otherwise. And I personally just can't even imagine like a life of mine where I didn't read, because as a reader, I've been able to experience so many of these lifetimes, like it says in the quote. And I just feel like it makes me who I am. So that's why I love to read, and that's why I love to create my own stories so other people can experience what I create in my own mind too.
You're also giving away a book. If you would tell us what you're giving away.
I'm giving away Elementals 1, The Prophecy of Shadows. It came out January 26th, so it came out about a month ago. It's book 1, so you don't have to have read anything else before reading the series. You can just start with the book that I'm giving away. So anyone can really enter if you like urban fantasy, mythology, or anything like that.
Cool. All right. So, and what Michelle didn't say was, so sometimes we split between domestic and international folks in terms of winning. This is for anybody. So whether you're international or domestic, anybody can win. She will send you the paperback if you happen to win. So to enter to win, make sure in the comments right below here that you leave a comment about the show. It can be anything. It can be the answer to the trivia question if you want. It doesn't have to be. Just say what you liked about the show, maybe what you didn't like, whatever it might be. Then the other thing is, please be sure to leave a Twitter handle, a Facebook connection, something, some way, an email address that we can get a hold of you. Because if you win, we certainly do want to make sure that you get the book. Michelle, you'll be reading a portion from your fantasy novel, which is The Elementals 1, The Prophecy of Shadows. Would you briefly set up the portion you'll be reading from and then go and share with us?
I'll be reading actually from a section in the middle of the book, which is a more action-packed fun scene. And just to like give you an idea of what happened before, just a very basic idea, because obviously a lot happens before. But so the main character is Nicole, and she meets this guy Blake, who she immediately finds very attractive. But he has a girlfriend, and they are all doing one of their witchy circle things under a mysterious comet, when suddenly, a few days later, they start to develop mysterious powers. Blake has developed powers over fire. Nicole has the ability to heal herself and others, and they also are stronger than they used to be. So Nicole and Blake both can't sleep one night, and they decide to go off to this abandoned playground just to experiment with their new powers and see the extent of what they can do. And everything's going well between them until they turn around, they hear this noise in the woods, and they see this monstrous two-headed hound with like glowing yellow eyes glaring at them and ready to attack. So this passage starts that's chapter 20, which begins right after they've seen this monster that they can tell is about to attack them. "Run," Blake yelled, grabbing my arm and pulling me off the merry-go-round. It spun under our weight, and I held onto the metal bars, pushing off them to leap over the edge. The cedar chips on the ground cushioned my landing. The car was behind us, which would mean running towards the monstrous hound, so I bolted for the playground, hurrying up a ladder of rubber tires that led to the closest platform. Blake followed close behind. The second he was up, he took the lighter out of his pocket and aimed a blue fireball at the tires, melting them to the ground seconds before the hound reached them. It looked up at us and growled, a low, menacing sound that if I spoke dog, I would have assumed meant, "I'm going to have you for dinner." And then I tried to jump onto the platform. It missed by only a few inches. Blake flicked on his lighter and threw a fireball at the hound's chest, but it jumped to the side to get out of the way. It turned all four eyes up at us, one head letting out a deep roar, as the other snapped its teeth together, taking bites out of the air. My hand shook, and I gripped one of the log posts behind me for support. "Have you learned how to fight these things in homeroom?" I asked Blake, my voice rising in panic. He threw another fireball, and it missed the hound again. "No," he snapped, the flames lighting up his face. "Fighting legendary creatures isn't exactly on the syllabus." "Well, maybe it should be," I said, as he launched another ball of fire, hitting the hound on its front paw. Both of its heads yelped in pain. The scorpion tail lowered between its legs, and it growled again before turning away from us and running toward the side of the playground, wood chips flying behind it as it gained speed. My heart pounded, and I looked around to figure out how to get off the platform. The exit was a slide that dropped off the monkey bars, I could get down and run to the car, but I didn't know where the hound was, and leaving the platform could give it the perfect opportunity to pounce. Then the hound growled again. I turned around, spotting it clambering up a ladder of logs that led to a nearby platform. Only a wobbly bridge separated that platform from our own. My entire body shook, and I moved closer to Blake, grabbing his arm for support. The hound reached the top of the platform, and its glowing eyes narrowed, ready to attack. Not having anywhere else to go, I launched myself down the slide and hurried to the monkey bars, climbing up the ladder and hoisting myself on top of them. Gripping the sides, I crawled to the center bar, but the ground spun beneath me, my lungs tightening as I looked down. I had to take a few breaths to steady myself. A 6-foot fall wasn't deadly, and now wasn't the time to let my fear of heights get to me. Blake scrambled behind me, and I turned around to make sure he wasn't hurt. Sweat dripped down the sides of his face from the flames, but other than that, he looked okay. He took his lighter out again, holding it up in preparation to create another fireball. I looked back at the hound in time to see it run along the bridge and hurl itself towards us. It bared its teeth as it flew through the air, its arms outstretched as it came closer to the monkey bars. But it must not have had enough force behind the jump because it fell off to the ground with a loud thump. It stood and shook the wood chips off its fur, a low growl coming from somewhere deep in its throat as it turned its heads up to look at us. Before I could say anything to Blake about how completely screwed we were, he threw 2 balls of fire toward the hound, hitting both of its faces. It howled and collapsed, whimpering as it buried its snouts in its paws. The smell of burnt skin filled the air. My stomach swirled with nausea, and I lifted my hand to my nose to block out the odor. Only a few seconds passed before it stood up again. The fur on its faces has changed to a charred gray. Its yellow eyes glowed brighter now, both snouts chomping madly in the air, strings of saliva dripping to the ground as it waited to devour whichever one of us lost our balance first. Then I had a crazy idea. Can you burn the wood around one of these metal bars and get it out? I pointed to show Blake what I meant. The poles to grab onto while swinging across the monkey bars were metal, but the rest of the structure was wood. If Blake could burn a small amount of wood away that surrounded one of the poles, the metal could come loose. Without the whole structure falling down, he looked at me as if I'd lost my mind. If I can, what do you plan on doing with it? Using it as a sword? Sort of, I said. Unless you have a better idea, because what we're doing now isn't working. He examined a metal bar on the end, running his hands along the edges where it met with the wood. I should be able to do it, he said, glancing down at the hounds. It jumped in the air and snapped its teeth, only missing us by a foot. But if the structure falls, run for it. He took his keys out of his pocket and placed them in my palm, wrapping my fist around them. I'll distract it and you get in the car. Don't wait for me. You want me to leave you to deal with that thing alone? Now I looked at him like he was crazy. No way. I can hold it off with my power, he insisted. I'll be fine. The hound walked away before I could respond, not looking back as it disappeared behind the playground. Is it leaving? I whispered. Blake shook his head, his hand ready with his lighter. I don't think so. It reappeared in my line of sight, and I realized what it was doing. A few platforms away was another way up the jungle gym, a single log that looked like a large balance beam slanted upwards, and the hound was headed right toward it. Blake must have realized what it was doing too, because he threw another ball of fire toward the hound. The flames hit the tip of its scorpion tail. The fire took only a few seconds to go out, and the hound jumped onto the platform we were on earlier, glaring at us. It backed up to the other end of the bridge and dug its legs into the wood like a bull about to attack. I tightened my grip on the edges of the monkey bars. Get me the metal bar, I said, my voice surprisingly steady considering that my heart was beating so fast that felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. Now. So that's where I'm going to leave it.
Have you ever heard the expression awesome possum? Are you looking for great reads for your kids or grandkids? Award-winning author M.K. Mathias has recently published the first 3 books in the Awesome Possum series for early readers. And the expression awesome possum is apropos because these books have an engaging rhyming tale with full color illustrations that are sure to keep kids riveted and begging for more. Awesome Possum by M.K. Mathias. Get one or all of them at Amazon today.
Our guest author last week, YA fantasy author Lindsay Brambles, posed a trivia question for us.
So my question was, What was the costume that Scout wore to the Halloween pageant in To Kill a Mockingbird? And the answer is a cured ham.
Michelle, you have a trivia question for us. What is it?
I do. So my trivia question has to do with the Percy Jackson series, because readers of Percy Jackson do tend to like my Elemental series. And the question is, which of the Olympian gods is Percy's father? So if you read the Percy Jackson series, this should be pretty easy. If you haven't, don't cheat and look it up online. Just let the people who read the series get it.
Okay, well, that's an awesome question. So yes, definitely people who love Percy Jackson should know this one. But for those of you who don't, especially if you don't, make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because next week, Michelle will come back and reveal the answer to this trivia conundrum if you don't know. And you certainly don't want to miss that. Michelle, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed getting to meet me today. And if you did, I would love to connect with you. You can go to michellemado.com, and on the sidebar, you'll see every different social media thing I have, which are different ways to connect with me. I do tend to prefer Facebook, so follow me on there. And you'll also see when you're there that I am actually giving away to anyone who wants the e-version of all 3 parts of my Transcend Time saga, Remembrance, Vengeance, and Timeless. This is my first series I ever wrote. I wrote it when I was in college, and it's about a girl who was reincarnated, and then she meets her soulmate, and he triggers her memories come back to her. It was really fun for me to write. It's gotten great feedback, so you can easily get all 3 of those books for free by signing up to my email list on the sidebar of my blog, and immediately after you sign up, you'll get an email that has links of where you can download the e-versions for the entire series.
That's awesome. Wow, what an opportunity. Thank you very much for that, Michelle. I'm sure
Thank you.
we'll take advantage of that. So, all right. Well, as I said before, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series, and I hope you've enjoyed today's anniversary show. Yes, 52 episodes. Wow, it's hard to believe. It's been a lot of fun, let me tell you. And hopefully you're having fun as well. I look forward to seeing you again next Monday, so be sure to tune in for what we have in store then.